Happy Teachers Day.
Happy Teachers Day.
Happy Teachers Day.
Teachers Day.
Happy Teachers Day.
Happy Teachers Day.
Thank you.
Happy Teachers Day.
Okay, so let us start off. We'll start with the joint chanting of the prayers. Om Sada Shiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
केला रखा है, ब्रेड से कवर रखा है
Om
ब्रेकफास्ट के लिए
Tat
दोनों के
Om
लिए।
Namah Shivaya. Okay,
क्या?
so we will just chant the
I don't
30th
understand. I
verse.
can't hear you.
Somebody is talking. Can you please put off your mic? So we are chanting the 30th verse today. Sri Bhagavanu Vacha Ehi Nityamavadhyoyam Dehe Sarvasya Bharata Tasmat Sarvani Bhutani Natvam Shochitum Arhasi. Okay. So as usual, we look at the grammar first. Dehi Nityam Avadhyaha Ayam. So Avagraha is dropped over there. So Dehi Nityam Avadhyaha Ayam. Dehe Sarvasya Bharata Tasmat Sarvani Bhutani Natvam Shochitum Arhasi. And the Anvaya will be He Bharata Sarvasya Dehe Ayam Dehi Nityam Avadhyaha comma. He Bharata Sarvasya Dehe Ayam Dehi Nityam Avadhyaha comma Tasmat Tasmat Tvam Sarvani Bhutani Shochitum na arhasi. Tasmat Tvam Sarvani Bhutani Shochitum na arhasi. He Bharata, he Arjuna. Sarvasya Dehe, in everybody's body, in the body of all jivas, Ayam Dehi, this Atma which is present in the Deham, and we said earlier that the Atma in the Dehi is called, in the Deham is called the Dehi. So this Ayam Dehi, this Atma which is present Sarvasya Dehe in everybody's body, Nityam Avadhyaha is eternally indestructible, can never be destroyed. Tasmat, therefore, wherefore, because this Atma can never be destroyed. Tvam sarvani bhutani shochitum na arhasi. You should not grieve over any living being. Tasmat is therefore, Tvam is you, Sarvani bhutani is all living beings, all jivas. Shochitum is to grieve, na arhasi, you should not. Actually, arhasi means, has a better word, has a better connotation. Essentially, it means that you are not eligible for grief. So therefore, you should not be grieving at all because there is nothing to grieve about. So that is the Anvaya. So this shloka is called Upasamhara shloka, conclusion shloka. Upasamhara is a concluding summary. So 30th verse is a Upasamhara shloka. It's the conclusion of the teaching so far, which is Atmajnana. And what is the summary of the teaching? The body, the physical body is mortal. It is subject to old age. It is subject to disease. It is subject to death. So this physical body is subject to Shadvikara. If you remember from your Tattva Bodha class, subject to the 6 vikaras, which include old age, disease, and death. All these we can control to some extent, right? You can control the disease by proper ahara, by proper food, by taking care of your body, by proper exercise. But old age is inevitable. Nothing you can do will take away the old age. And as you grow older, your body system grows weaker, and therefore disease also will come. And even if you can avoid disease, death will come. Your systems will fail because they are getting older and older. All the body systems which we have, the lungs, the hearts, the muscles, the tissues, everything has got a particular expiry date. As and when they go closer to the expiry date, the systems will start to fail, and therefore death is certain. That's why Krishna said, Jatasya dhruvoho mrityu. Whoever is born, for that person, death is certain. So once we are born, wisdom lies in what? In being ready to accept the fact that my body will grow old, it will go frail, it will have disease, and ultimately that body will die. And of course, the problem here is that the date of expiry of the body, the date of death of the body is not known to us. So that uncertainty hangs over us all the time and makes us unhappy. So if you remember the story of Raja Parikshit, he was cursed, saying that within 7 days he will die. So on the 7th day he would die was the curse. And then he was happy. Why? Because he said, oh, at least I have 7 days pakka. But for every other person, the time of death is not predicted. It cannot be predicted because Lord Yama does not send a notice. It can come any moment. And therefore, the mental preparation and acceptance of the fact that the body is mortal, the acceptance of my physical mortality is the first lesson that Krishna is teaching. Be ready to welcome the death of the body at any point of time. That is the first lesson. And the second lesson is, behind that mortal body is the real me, the real I, which is called the Dehi. So Deha Anityaha. The body is Anityam. It is temporary. Dehi Nityaha. This is the second lesson. The first lesson is Deha Nityaha. Deha Anityaha. Second lesson is Dehi Nitya. First, body is mortal. Second, I, the body, the Dehi, am immortal. And Arjuna, if you can understand this, then you have to extend this immortality to everybody, as well as the mortality. You have to understand that Bhishma's body is mortal. You have to understand that Dronacharya's body is mortal. But you have to understand also that Bhishma, the real Bhishma, is the Dehi. He is immortal. Dronacharya is immortal. All these people whom you are crying for, remember, they are all immortal. Only their bodies are mortal. And once I am mentally prepared for death, then the death of people around me or the death of my own body will lack the capacity to disturb the mind. Right? Not totally, because one is not insensitive, one has a mind, one is sensitive. So certainly, death of people around you will cause a mild disturbance. And it is wrong to assume that the study of Vedanta or even the assimilation of Vedanta will completely and totally remove the disturbance. But it will become manageable. And I will know that this is part of my life. Death is going to be part of my life. Death of everybody that I know, and death of my own body also is going to be part of my life. And therefore, I have to continue my journey. This is the greatest advantage of this jnanam, that all disturbances become manageable disturbances. They don't immobilize me, they don't destroy me. Disturbances will be there, but they don't shock me anymore, and they are manageable. Therefore, Vedanta becomes my greatest shock absorber. My life journey becomes comfortable. And therefore, Krishna says, I am Dehi Nityam. This body is eternal. I am Dehi Nityam Avadhayaha. So here, Nityam Avadhayaha means this Dehi, this consciousness within the body. I am Dehi. That which is inside the body is the Dehi, is Nityam Avadhayaha. The Nityam is a Visheshanam for Avadhya. Remember that. This Nityam here is not to be taken as eternal, but eternally Avadhya. Means the body, this Dehi cannot be killed at any time. So Nityam here means at any time, at any means, by any means. So I am Dehi Nityam Avadhya. So one should translate this as the one in the body cannot be destroyed at any time. So we have already seen this. Nityaha, Satyaha, Sarvagataha, Akarta, Abhokta. In short, the Chaitanyam, the consciousness which I am, is Nityam, cannot be destroyed ever. It is always immortal. It is never destructible. Okay, and here comes the important part, which we discussed earlier also. Why is this Dehi, the Atma, why is it indestructible? There must be a reason, like Hetu should be given. And in our Shastram, we never ask you to accept anything blindly. So if I am going to say that the Dehi is indestructible, I have to give you the logic. And Shankara gives the logic. So he says, Nir Avayava. The Dehi, the Atma, is Nir Avayava. So Avayava means that which has got parts. Nir Avayava means that which is without any parts. And where does it reside? Sarvasya Dehi. So this permanent Atma, indestructible Atma, is enclosed inside the destructible body. This body which can be destroyed is the container. So the Avayava Shariram, the body with parts, and therefore body which can be destroyed, the body which is mortal, is the container for Nir Avayava Atma, for the Atma which has no parts at all. Right? The problem with mortality is, it becomes a problem only when it affects me or my family. Death, I am able to accept. So if some neighbor dies, or if somebody in Afghanistan dies, we are all Panditas. Oh yes, these things happen, law of karma, all those things we'll say. But what is really required is to extend that view, that understanding to somebody who is close to me also. And when that understanding is extended to everybody, whether he is close to me or not, and to my own body also, then only the understanding is complete. And that is why Krishna says, Sarvani Bhutani Na shochitum arhasi. You should never grieve for any living beings. Never grieve for the death of any living being. Never grieve, never be upset when anybody gets old. A very, very difficult advice to follow, because when you see your parents getting old, people get upset, right? When you see the first white hair on your head, will you not be upset? You will run to the mirror, right? You will run to the mirror and you will try to make it black. So Krishna is not saying, remember, that you should be indifferent. So when you say shochitum na arhasi, it doesn't mean that be like a stone. People will die around you and you will not do anything. That is not what is being said. What you have to understand this is that if somebody around you is in pain, it is your duty. You must do. It is a duty to do whatever you can to lessen that pain, to alleviate the pain. You can try to extend the life by giving medicines, taking him to the hospital, putting him in ICU. All these duties as a man to another person, you must do, because that is part of your dharma. But remember always that death is a fact of life. Grief is never going to change the fact that the body is going to die. That body is your body also, not just the body of others. Once you are able to accept the death of other people, so it actually comes in a few stages. First, you accept the death of people whom you don't know, and that I think almost everybody does without too much trouble. Death of a person whom I don't know is okay. It's all right. It's part of life. Death of a person I know, slightly more difficult. Death of a person close to me, family members, is even more difficult. And the most difficult is going to be the death of my own body. But Krishna is saying these are facts. Just because you don't accept those facts, that fact is not going to change. And therefore, shochitum na arhasi, you should not grieve for anybody, because there is pointless. What cannot be helped, why grieve for it? So with this, I'll stop for the time being if you have any questions. No questions? Okay. So I'm muting you. Please unmute yourself and we can chant the next verse. Swadharmam api chavekya na vikampitum arhasi dharmyadhi yuddha shreyonyat kshatriyasya na vidyate. So I'm muting you all without option of unmuting yourself. At the end of the discussion, I'll unmute you. Otherwise, people are unmuting themselves and disturbing the recording. Okay, so let us look at the grammar part. Swadharmam api. So chaveksha has to be broken into cha plus aveksha and vikam pitum arhasi. Then dharmyadhi is to be broken as dharmyat plus hi. Dharmyat hi yuddhat shreyah anyat kshatriyasya na vidyate. So the second word of the second line is yuddhat shreyah anyat kshatriyasya na vidyate. And the anvaya becomes swadharmam api cha avekshya vikam pitum na arhasi, kshatriyasya hi dharmyat yuddhat anyat shreyah na vidyate. Dharmya yuddhat anyat shreyah na vidyate. So he's saying that dharmyat or swadharmam api avekshya. Avekshya means regarding to. So swadharmam api avekshya, even regarding to your own nature, swadharma, vikampitum naharasi. You should not have any doubts, you should not waver. Vikampitum is waver actually. You should not waver. Because Kshatriyasya, for a person who is a Kshatriya, which means for a person who is a warrior, dharmyat yuddhat anyat, other than a dharma yuddha, other than a battle which is driven by dharma, shreyah na vidyate. There is nothing better than a battle which is driven by dharma. So he's saying even in regarding to your own nature and duty, swadharma is your own nature, own duties because of your nature. You should not have any second thoughts, because for a warrior, for Kshatriya, the battle undertaken for protection of dharma is the greatest good that you can do in your life. This is what he's saying. So, hey Arjuna, from the standpoint of your own duty also, you should not waver, because there is nothing greater for a Kshatriya than a battle which is fought for dharma. So if you remember, I said in the very beginning that Krishna had a 3-level strategy. The first was to teach at the Adhyatmika level. And with verse number 30, that Adhyatmika level teaching is over. Now he starts the Dharmika level teaching. Dharmika drishti means ethical teaching, so ethical level teaching. And after that, he will go to the worldly level or the empirical level, Laukika drishti. So Adhyatmika drishti, Dharmika drishti, and Laukika drishti. There are 3 levels of teaching. The Adhyatmika level is over, and now Krishna is starting the Dharmika drishti. Why is this second level of teaching necessary? Because for an unprepared mind, it is very simple to misunderstand Vedanta. So Krishna said what? Atma is akarta, abhokta. Therefore, it does not have punyam or papa. Why? What is akarta can never be a bhokta. And punyam and papam is bhog only. And therefore, if you are not doing any action, where is the question of having any punyam or papa? And therefore, you look at this line of the last verse and say, Dehi nityam avadhyoyam dehe sarvasya bharata. And if you have not understood Vedanta, what will you argue? After all, this body is mortal. This body is going to die anyway. Anyway, he is going to die. So what's wrong in killing that person? Because as you yourself say, oh Krishna, I have killed only the body. The real person is Dehi. I have not killed him. And he is eternal. Right? Therefore, it can be understood or it can be misunderstood, and the teaching can be abused. Therefore, the abuse of Vedanta is always by a person who has not understood Vedanta properly, because real Vedanta can never be against Dharma. Vedanta can coexist only with Dharma, and therefore Krishna says, Swadharmam api chaveksya. Even with regard to the standpoint of your Swadharma, your own duty, you should not hesitate, Arjuna, because your Dharma is more important. Swadharma is a technical word, right? So let us look at what it means. A technical word, you must be familiar with the Sanskrit word paribhasha shabdaha. a word which is defining another word. So technical word it is. What is this Swadharma? And in Shastram, dharma itself is classified into two types. Samanya dharma and Vishesha dharma. Samanya dharma, as the name implies, is universal dharma. It applies to everybody. It does not depend upon the person's varna, whether he is Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. It does not depend upon that. It does not depend upon whether he is male or female. It does not depend upon his ashrama. So he can be Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, boy, girl. He can be Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyasi. It doesn't depend. That Samanya Dharma is always there. It's across all these people. So for those of you are familiar with Yoga Sutras, what are the Samanya Dharmas in Yoga Sutras? I'll just allow you to unmute yourself. What are the Samanya Dharmas in Yoga Sutras?
Yama Niyama.
Yama and Niyama.
Yama Niyama. So Ahimsa, Samanya Dharma. Satyam, Samanya Dharma. Astheyam, Samanya Dharma. Aparigraham, Samanya Dharma. Right? These are the Samanya Dharmas. And Aparigraham is a very important Samanya Dharma because Prakriti nature has provided for human need, but no amount of providing can account for human greed. So Prakriti provides for our needs, but not for our greed. And wherever we have greed, what happens? One person gets too much food, the other person gets no food. In fact, both die. The one who doesn't get food dies out of not getting food. The one who gets too much food dies out of diabetes or something like that. Right? So wherever I have got more, I should be ready to share with the others. And that is why Aparigraha has so much of importance. Then look at the niyamas. Shaucham. This is also Samanya Dharma. Santosham. Also Samanya Dharma. Santosham is learning to be content with whatever I have. Freedom from jealousy. So never compare with what somebody else has. Then Tapaha, self-discipline, is a fundamental duty of every human being. Then Swadhyaya, scriptural studies, also Samanya Dharma. Everybody has to study the scriptures. Why? Because Shastram tells you how to lead your life in a harmonious manner. So we think that scriptural study is only for Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya. You should study all the time. Don't say I don't have time, because it is your basic duty. Then Ishvara Pranidhana, surrender to the Lord, is another Samanya Dharma. So as you can see from all this, Samanya Dharma is common across all human beings. Then Vishesha Dharma, next one. Specific duties. That is the duty of an individual depending upon his role, his designation, his job. And this Vishesha Dharma is being called Swadharma. Remember, Samanya Dharma is not Swadharma. That is the meaning of the prefix Swa, Swayam, your own Dharma. And your own Dharma can be described how? Only when, depending upon what you are doing, where you were born, what is your role in life. So all this is the Vishesha Dharma. And what is the Vishesha Dharma of a Kshatriya? When his people are in danger, when his nation is in danger, he is supposed to engage in war and protect the people and the nation. And this is what Krishna is pointing out. So he is saying Swadharma means Dharma of a Kshatriya. And here Shankara very clearly writes, yes, it means Dharma of Kshatriya. It also means that the Swadharma is in accordance with the Swabhava. Right? So here, since we're talking about Swadharma of Arjuna, what is the Swabhava of Arjuna? Is it Sattva Pradhanam or Rajas Pradhanam?
Rajas.
It is Rajas Pradhanam. Right? And therefore, Shankara is pointing out a very important fact. choose a profession in accordance with your own swabhava. You should know whether you are sattva pradhanam or rajas or rajo pradhanam. If you are sattva pradhanam, do not try to choose a profession where rajo pradhanam nature is required. So if I am sattva pradhanam, I should not join the army or the police force, because I will not be able to do justice to that, the duty required there, and my employer will be unhappy. I will also be unhappy. Similarly, if you are rajo pradhanam, do not try to become a shastrik acharya, because your nature will not permit that. And that's why he says, na vikampitum. Do not deviate from your swabhava, hey Arjuna. Okay, so that is the meaning of the first line. Now look at the second line. Dharmyadhi yuttat shreyo anyat kshatriyasya na vidyate. Dharmyadhi, in accordance with dharma. How can you say that, might be the question. Because dharma says hinsa na kurya. And in a war, there will be lots of hinsa. So how can you say dharmya? Then Krishna does not explain here. So Shankara says, when the Kshatriya fights a war, what is the result? He gets control over the kingdom. And once he is king, what is his job? He can protect dharma, he can promote dharma, he can protect citizens also. And therefore, for a Kshatriya, this yuddha, this fight, is a nitya karma. And Shastra says, through nitya karma alone, you can get chitta shuddhi. So nitya, naimittika karma, these are two expressions which we shall see in greater detail in the next chapter. But through nitya, naimittika karma, one gets chitta shuddhi. And so for a Kshatriya, the yuddham, the war, is a sadhanam, is a means for chitta shuddhi. Because to fight this war, what is the most important thing required? A tremendous amount of vairagyam, dispassion is required. You have to fight the war like a karma yogi. You have to kill people without hating them. You see the difference? If you are fighting the war out of likes and dislikes, you are a karmi. There is no question of chitta shuddhi. You will incur papam and punyam. But he says, hey Arjuna, you are not to deviate from your duty. Your duty is to fight the war. Fight it with dispassion. And if you fight with dispassion, then you will find that there will be no papam incurred. You will be fighting a war in the proper manner. Now we will chant the next verse. So please unmute yourself. Yadrachaya chopapannam Swargadvaramapavritam Sukhinah Kshatriyah Partha. So there is a visarga there, and when the visarga is followed by ksha, what should be the way of pronouncing the visarga? Fully. Right. The ksha following the visarga means the visarga has to be pronounced completely. So Sukhinah Kshatriyah Partha Lavante Yuddhamidrisham. So Yadracha Chopapannam Swargadvaramapavritam Sukhinah Kshatriyah Partha Labhante Yuddhamidrisham. Okay. So now we look at the grammar portion again. Yad Rachaya. So this is the R of the Rishi. Yad Rachaya Cha Upapannam. Yad Rachaya Cha Upapannam Swarga Dwaram Apavaratam. Swarga Dwaram Apavaratam Sukhinaha Kshatriyaha Partha Labhante Yuddham Idrisham. So Rachaya. Rachaya means by chance. Yad Rachaya cha. By chance. Swarga Dwaram Apavaratam Upapannam. The door, that is Dwaram, to heaven, to Swargam. Apavaratam is open. Upapannam means has happened. So by chance, an opportunity has been given where the door to heaven is open, a Partha. And he says, Sukhinaha Kshatriyaha. That Kshatriya is a happy Kshatriya, for who gets Labhante, who gets Idrisham Yuddham, who gets the opportunity to fight such a battle. Okay. So this is the text. He's saying, hey, Partha, only a happy Kshatriya gets to fight this kind of battle. Only a very lucky Kshatriya gets to fight this kind of battle. That battle which has come by chance and which is an open gate for heaven. If you fight the battle, you will definitely go to heaven. That is what Krishna is telling Arjuna. So, as I said, he is giving all sort of reasons why Arjuna should fight the war. The Adhyatmika reasons are over. This is the Dharmika reasons. So he is saying, Krishna is outlining the second phase of his teaching, Dharmika Dharma, Dharmika Drishti. So here remember that for a Kshatriya, the sacrifice of his life is not a tragedy. It is a great opportunity for going to heaven. And therefore only Yadrichaya Upapanna. That opportunity has come to fight this war. Yadrichaya. Without your asking. But from the Shastric angle, this is an opportunity, it's a door to go to Swarga. Because according to Dharma Shastra, when a person fights for Dharma and dies in that battle, the karma phalam promised by the scripture, by Shastram, is that he will go to Swarga. So the Kshatriya fighting a battle and dying will go straight to Swarga. That is the karma phalam promised by the Shastram. And that is why Swarga is called Veera Swarga, the place where brave people go. Therefore only Swarga Dwaram. Dharma Yuddha is a Swarga Dwaram. It's a gateway to go to heaven. And so he says, Apavratam Swarga Dwaram. The gates to heaven are open. And Sukhinaha Kshatriyaha, the fortunate Kshatriyaha, Idrisham Yuddham Labante. That blessed Kshatriya only will come across such an opportunity to fight the battle, die in it, and go to heaven. Therefore, Arjuna, do not miss this opportunity. Fight the battle. It is a win-win situation. If you win, you will rule the kingdom very happily. If you die, you will go to Swarga. Where is the problem, Arjuna? Why are you waiting? So this is what he's saying. It's all a motivational speech. So the first motivational speaker in history was Lord Krishna. Okay. Now we will chant the 33rd verse. So please unmute yourself. Atha chettvamimam dharmyam
Chettvamimam
धर्म्यं
dharmyam
sangramam na karishyati तथा स्वधर्मं कीर्तिं च
स्वधर्मं कीर्तिं
हित्वा पापमवाप्स्यसि So, atha chetvam imam. So that has to be broken into atha chet. So atha chet tvam imam. 4 words. Atha chet tvam imam. Dharmyam sangramam na karishyasi tataha swargam kirtim cha hitva papam avapsyasi. And the anvaya will be atha chet. Atha chet tvam imam dharmyam sangramam na karishyasi, comma. Atha chet tvam imam dharmyam sangramam na karishyasi. Tataha swadharmam kirtim cha hitva papam avapsyasi. So atha chet, now if. Chet is if. Atha chet. Now if tvam imam dharmyam sangramam. If you do not fight this dharmic battle, na karishyasi. If you do not fight this dharmic battle, so imam dharmyam sangramam, this spiritual battle, this dharmic battle, na karishyasi. If you do not fight, tataha. So that tataha has to be connected to ataha. If now, then. So ataha, tataha. Then what will happen? Swadharmam kirtim hitva. Hitva means you will renounce. You will have renounced. You will have thrown away what? Swadharmam. Your own duties. And kirtim. And your fame and honor you have thrown away. And what will happen? Papam avapsyasi. Avapsyasi is you will get or you will incur papam. You will get papam. Okay. Right. So, on the other hand, if you do not fight this dharmic battle, you will be renouncing duty and honor and you will get papam. So, having given the reason for fighting so far, right? So far, Krishna has said why you should fight. And now Krishna outlines what is the problem if you do not fight. So, if you do not fight, Arjuna, you will not get Swarga, of course. That is going to happen. You are going to go to Narga only. Because if a person renounces his Nitya karma, that omission of duty is considered to be a papam, according to Shastra. Right? And Shastram says, papam can be classified under 2 classes. One is papam in the form of doing what should not be done. That is, in English, we call it sin of commission. So, papam, this form of papam comes in the form of doing what should not be done, and therefore doing nisheda karma, doing prohibited karma. Prohibited by whom? Prohibited by Shastra. For example, Shastram says, Suram na pibet, do not drink liquor. So, this is, if you do this, then it is nisheda karma being done, prohibited karma being done. So there is nisheda karma rupa papa, nisheda karana rupa papa. The form, the papam is in the form of doing something which is prohibited. That is one form. In the form of doing what is prohibited, nisheda karma. And then the other one is vihita akaranam. So vihita akaranam means not doing. Vihita means what is mandated, what is prescribed. Right? So nisheda karma karanam and vihita karma akaranam. These are the 2 descriptions. So not doing what should be done, not doing your duties as prescribed under Veda. This is the second type of papam. which is called Vihita Akarana. And the papam here is called Pratyavaya Papam. The papam incurred out of not doing something which is to be done or doing something which is not to be done is called Pratyavaya Papam. It's a special type of papam. And this is what Krishna is saying. Atha chet imam dharmyam sangramam na karishyasi. Hey Arjuna, if you will not fight this religious or spiritual war, what are you doing? Vihita akaranam. You are doing that which is, you are omitting that which is supposed to be done. You are not doing your duty, and therefore papam avapsyasi, pratyavaya papam avapsyasi. You will incur papam. What is the consequence of that papam? Suffering in this life, suffering in this janma, and if not in this janma, in future janmas. So, naraka prapti eva phalam bhavati. You may not be interested in Swarga, but the phalam is naraka prapti. You will go to narakam. And therefore, if you want to avoid going to narakam, hell, narakam is hell. If you want to avoid going to hell, at least if you don't want to, you might say that, I am not wanting to go to Swarga. I'm not interested in Swarga, but I don't want to fight. But hey, Arjuna, remember that it is not just not going to Swarga. By not fighting, the papam that you will incur, it will take you to hell. It will take you to Naraka. At least for the sake of avoiding that Narakam, you have to fight this war. And not only that, Kirtim Hitva. You will lose your good name and fame also. And Arjuna, you fought with Lord Shiva. And Lord Shiva was pleased with you. And he gave you the Pashupati Astram. And then you were very famous among all the people. Among all your people for that courage. And the fact that you had fought Lord Shiva so well that he was so pleased and gave you a divine Astram also. All that name and fame you will lose. And the world will forget all the previous courage and all your wonderful activities, actions, bravery, everything they will forget. Why? Because that is the way of the world. You might do good for 50 years. On the 51st year, you make one mistake, and it is that mistake which the world will remember every day. All the good you have forgotten, you have done, it is as if it was never there. Any good which you have done throughout your life is all forgotten, as if you had never done it, right? And all those people who are married here, they will agree. All the good in your life, your spouse will forget, but only your mistakes they will remember. So this is the same thing. So with this, Krishna's presentation on Dharmika Drishti is over. And now next verse onwards, he will start with the presentation on the Laukika Drishti. That we will do in the next class. Right now, we have some time. So if you have any questions, we can have.
So I want to know, like, if earlier, like, I didn't have the knowledge of Papam and Punyam, and now because I am studying this, I have some awareness. And so what can a person basically do if a person has committed some pap in the past, in this life only? So is there any like paschatap or like anything that scriptures say to correct what you have done in the past in this life?
Yeah, so you have karma which is used for, for paschatap or for correcting what you have done. That's all you can do. I would say that the remedy lies in looking at whatever damage you have caused. And then if at all you have caused any damage, looking at that, and then trying to rectify the damage. So, for example, if there is financial damage which has been caused, you can see whether you can, reimburse that person. And of course, you have to apologize. And if there is no financial damage and there's only damage in emotional terms, then of course, again, you need to go and try to apologize. These things are very tough to do. To admit that I am wrong is very tough to do, but that is the only way of addressing.
Okay.
So you have to address it that way.
No, but what if the person doesn't even know that I have done anything wrong? I mean, what if only I know that I have done anything wrong? The person is not aware. The person doesn't know.
So then there's no problem. Only thinking is not a, is not a crime. Krishna in fact tells Arjuna he tells Duryodhana, that you have thought about doing various sinful things, but you have not yet done it. This is before the war. So he says, if you don't do that, there's no problem. Thinking doesn't create any complications. When you convert that thought into action, that is when the papam really is incurred.
Sir, can I ask a very basic question? What
Yeah.
is Nark and what is Nark?
Good question. So you have different lokas in terms of Shastram, right? So there, in the Swarga Loka, you will get a better body than you have now.
Okay.
And you will enjoy. Like, let us say, you will a body which doesn't get fall ill, and you'll have lots of entertainment over there. You'll have Netflix all the time,
Okay.
all free of charge. And Naragaloga, of course, is the other end where your body will be worse than the human body and you will have constant suffering.
Okay.
So if you don't want to do this, understanding of the lokas, which of course it is there in the Shastram, you can also take it as another life on this earth with a better body or with a worse body. But Shastram does talk about these things. Okay, so
Thank you. Sir,
yes, please.
can you please share the Nishedh karmas? What all is enlisted and what all is said that is not to be, that is prohibited?
All the yamas, are Nishedha karmas. So ahimsa is, for example, it has been said that you must practice ahimsa. So hinsa is Nishedha karma. Satyam has been said, so asatyam is Nishedha karma. Anything which is against the basic teaching of Shastram is Nishedha karma. So in practical terms, you can take it as anything which hurt. The value actually starts from yourself. So whatever you don't want other people to do to you, if you do to others, that is Nishedha karma. As simple as that. You don't want people to hurt you. Therefore, if you hurt people, it is Nishedha karma. You don't want people to lie to you. Therefore, if you lie to other people, it is Nishedha karma. So to arrive at a practical idea of what is Nishedha karma, just see what is it that I don't like people to do to me. Yes, Lata ji, Wali, I can see your hand up.
Yeah, happy Teachers Day, sir.
Thank you.
So I want to ask, now Krishna had gone ahead and told Arjuna about as a Kshatriya, what your dharma is.
Yeah.
Okay. But we, being common people out here, I mean, how would we know? We understand from Adhyatmika what you have taught us. But from a dharmic level, what is right and wrong? How do we come to that kind of a conclusion? Because some things may be right for us, but wrong for others, right?
That's what I'm saying. You cannot say what is right for me is okay, but if it's wrong for others, it's not my problem.
Okay.
Whatever you do not like, you have to take it for granted others will not like. So that's a general rule. And of course, when you look at the 13th and 16th chapters, you will find a huge list of qualities, good qualities and bad qualities. Those are all the, what they call, in Bhagavad Geeta and Veda and all, you don't find much of that because it's all Vedanta part. All the do's and don'ts, they come in the Karma Kanda, the earlier part of the Vedas, where they will say what to do and what not to do. That's why Krishna also says that if you have a problem, go by Shastra. Yes. And in general, it is difficult to give a general statement, but if you have to ask, then you can, if you have a problem, You can always ask your teacher. And if you don't want to ask it in public, you can always message. That's not a problem.
So ideally, we do feel bad. Like, for example, our elders growing old and maybe having some illness and things like that. And as a dharma, we look after them. But the fact is that, that will come. Now, overcoming that kind of an emotion as per dharma, that's what dharma says, is what I want to know.
Yes.
Okay.
The idea is that you know that your parents are going to die.
Mm-hmm.
So you prepare for it. And luckily for most of us, we get sufficient warning. They get old, they get feeble. And let's face it, if somebody is old and feeble for a long time, when finally that person dies, the impact is not too much. Most of us, at least. If you are realistic, you should know that the person will die. And it is your duty to take care and take as much care and give as much comfort as possible in the dying days. But nothing you do will ever stop that. And therefore, going into a, what do you call, fit of weeping at that point of time, how does it help anybody? You have to be practical. Yes, when somebody dies at a younger age, it's much more difficult to take. But it is the same thing. The karma will operate throughout, either by way of old age or by way of young death. So understanding the law of karma is the key to getting out of this loop of sorrow. You have to understand the law of karma. And it takes time.
Correct, but we get impacted by what others say a lot, right?
You shouldn't. If somebody tells you to jump off the building, will you?
No.
Why not? Because you know physically it will kill you.
Yeah.
Exactly. So when somebody tells you something mentally affecting you, why do you listen to it? Which is why it required to develop a very strong mind. And that is what Bhagavad Gita does. Krishna's teaching, they strengthen your mind. Body, it will not strengthen. It will strengthen the mind. When the mind is strong, a lot of things become easier.
Correct.
Yes, Pandana, tell me.
Thank you.
Raviji.
Oh.
I wanted to clarify what you said about thoughts, because we had studied that the intention part of the action is what causes the karma. So, like, say I have a business dealing with someone and my thought towards that person is not favorable, but I don't want to, like, say, incur papam. So I still do what I must do. So wouldn't the thought part, how is thought different from intention here? Wouldn't that also generate karma?
No, see, the intention becomes papam only when your action is in accordance with the intention. If you are thinking badly about somebody and you want to hurt him, but you actually do him a favor, going against your thought, that intention becomes invalid, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have to distinguish between thoughts which are deliberate and thoughts which are, bhavika, uninvited. So you may have an uninvited thought, which is basically because of your own nature. That uninvited thought might say, let me give this guy a good beating. Okay, you might think badly about somebody. You might even want to hurt the person. But if your actual action which you carry out is not in accordance with that thought, there is no effect of that thought at all.
Right.
So intention has to be connected to the action in accordance with the intention to create a papam or punya.
Okay. Thank you. I had one more question. What exactly is nitya karma? I didn't completely understand it.
Nitya karma is karma which is supposed to be done by you in accordance with the mandate of Shastra. Okay, so for example,
exact opposite of nishada karma.
For example, you have Panchamahayagnya. So 5 yajna which you do. We'll do all this in detail, 3rd chapter. 5 yajnas you have to do regularly as a Vedika. And the Shastram says that this you must do. If you don't do it, then you are incurring papam. So that is Nitya Karma. We'll do that in a lot of detail in chapter 3.
Thank you.
Yes, Pandana. Your hand is still up. That's what I'm asking.
No, I'm lowering that.
Oh, okay. Yes, June.
Ravi ji.
June.
So I have two questions.
Yeah.
The first one is, so we should not do to others what we don't want someone to do for us, like the first rule. So when I'm studying all these scriptures and all these teachings, there are some like people or some relationships that you want to cut in some way, because you know they don't take you anywhere, and they don't support you in some way. But when you try to, like, if they invite you somewhere and you say no, then they invite you again and you say no, and then you feel that they feel sad because you are rejecting them in some way. They feel this rejection from you. So how to balance? How
A relationship cannot be one way, right? I cannot tell my wife that, you are a good wife only if you do everything that I want, which is basically what you are saying, right? Supposing she doesn't support me in anything, let us say she doesn't like my teaching, and she does her best to, ensure that I don't teach by disturbing me, by making a face. Is that a relationship? Exactly. So, of course, I'm not saying you just cut off a relationship immediately, but you have to explain that what you are doing is not good for me, and this is important for me. And you keep explaining and doing and trying to make it work. Keep talking. If it doesn't, then really there is no point. And then after that, once you have explained the reasons that why you are unable to carry on, then there's no reason to feel bad. Unless you have to give a chance to change. If that person changes and says, okay, fine, I'll not do all this anymore, I'll try to support you, then it's okay. But if that person still says that, no, you do things my way, then really speaking, there is not much scope in that relationship. It's bad for you and bad for the other person also.
And the second question was about, you always says that Gita is not a call for action, that should not be taken as a call for action. But I have listened this explanation like 3 times during our classes here, but I would like to listen once again, please.
It is not. Basically, Gita is to tell you that you are the Atma. Atma does not act.
Okay.
Shankara makes it very clear in all his bhashyams that anybody who thinks that Gita is telling you to do karma, he doesn't understand that Atma cannot do karma. Gita is a moksha shastram that is meant for giving moksha, which means it's meant to make you understand that you're Atma, which means what? That as Atma, I cannot do any action. And therefore, to say that Gita is a call for action, it's a compromised version for people who have not understood what is Atma Jnana. So for those people, they are in the Karma Yoga stage, and therefore, at that stage, you have to act for Chitta Shuddhi. Therefore, in that compromised version, you can say, yes, Gita and it wants you to do action, which is the common understanding of Gita. Karma. Karma because, not for karma's sake, because through karma only Chitta Shuddhi can be obtained. That is why action is, given prominence in certain parts of the Gita.
Thank you so much.
Yes, Alka ji, last question.
Yes, Acharya ji. You mentioned that to help us not to feel grief, we must strengthen our minds.
Yes.
Now, I understand that Shravanam and Mananam are the path towards strengthening the mind. Is there anything else that we can do to strengthen? Because I think that's the basic essence of strengthening the mind.
The mind can be strengthened. Shravanam and Maranam are the basics, yes. But you must learn to concentrate. So that is why we say meditation is necessary. Concentration meditation is necessary so that you can bring the mind to focus on what you wanted to focus upon. Actually, that is the earlier stage than Shravanam. Because unless you are able to focus on the teaching, there is no point in sitting in class. Therefore, the earlier stage is Chitta Shuddhi, which is getting the mind to be relatively free of disturbances. And that is karma yoga is there, upasana yoga is there. Both these are meant for strengthening, purifying the mind, and then only can you come to Shavana. So there is a relative strengthening through karma yoga and upasana yoga where disturbances die down or at least are reduced. And in that reduced, relatively calm mind, Ravanam works strengthening the mind to the extent required to be free of disturbances.
Can I ask a related question very quickly?
Yeah.
I've heard that you should do at least 1 hour of meditation morning and evening. Is there any, because I find even a very brief meditation, it really becomes very impactful for me. So what is your advice on this? Is there any,
I would say start with 15 minutes and start with, verbal japa, loud japa and a japa mala. The japa mala so that it keeps reminding you that you are doing japa. And make sure that the moment the mind wanders, you have to come back. So actually you can do it in a way like I'll do 1 mala, 108 beads without any disturbance, right? And you can tell yourself and make it a rule that if my mind wanders during these 108, then I will repeat the mala.
Right.
If that is done, then the fact that you repeat the mala becomes an incentive for you to focus on the first mala. Yeah. You can do your own technique.
Thank you. Thank you, Acharya.
So okay, with this, thank you so much. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnam Devavasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat. Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Acharya.
Thank you.
Thank you.